This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. We begin with the latest news involving the impeachment process on Capitol Hill. Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee have passed 2 articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. The articles allege abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. This after 14 hours of bitter partisan debate just last night.
We have an ongoing crime. We have a crime in progress.
It's not just an attack on the presidency. It's an attack on us. It's an attack on those of us who believe in this president.
This is a constitutional crime spree. That's why courage is so badly needed right here, right now. Our national security and democracy are depending on it.
The White House released a statement after the vote calling the impeachment inquiry a desperate charade. The president tweeted this afternoon, "This whole process has been rigged from the start." The impeachment case now heads to the full House of Representatives, where Democrats have vowed to officially impeach Trump before Christmas. CBN News chief political analyst David Brody joins us now to share more. David, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Mark.
Several House Democrats are actually undecided about moving forward with an impeachment vote. Why is that?
Well, I think it's all political, Mark. I mean, they understand that if they take this vote against the president in a Trump-leaning district, that they themselves are in trouble in November. It's that simple. You know, the Daily Caller, a conservative outlet, the Daily Caller put in a call to all 31 of those Trump-leaning districts, so 31 Democrat congressmen in those Trump-leaning districts, and all 31 said they were undecided at this point. Now, let's remember, no one expects all 31 of those Democrats, obviously, to vote against impeachment. But the truth of the matter is there are going to be some Democrats that vote against it. Now, Republicans are going to need 17 Democrats to vote along with them against impeachment for this to go down. Don't expect that to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get close to double digits on Democrats defecting from the party line, Mark.
And again, you're talking about in the House, correct?
That's right. That's absolutely right.
A majority of Americans are not in favor of impeachment. Do you think they, like the president, see this as a witch hunt?
Well, look, I mean, I think we've been pretty clear, or the polls for sure have been clear, that it hasn't moved. I mean, this has been typical Donald Trump throughout all of his presidency. It doesn't matter what he does, good or bad, honestly. His numbers pretty much stay the same, including during impeachment. And so, look, I mean, the truth of the matter is Donald Trump keeps calling this a witch hunt. Well, you know, that's fine. He can do that. But I don't know necessarily. There are Americans, obviously, who believe this is a witch hunt. But I think more interesting than that is the fact that Democrats, look, here's the truth of the matter, okay? With Richard Nixon, the Republicans started to see the polling shift, and Richard Nixon was in trouble because he lost the Republican Party and he started losing the American people. We don't have that here. The Republican Party is stuck with Donald Trump, and the American people are clearly split on this. If anything, there are more, about 50 to 45% leaning against impeachment. And so the Democrats wanted to see, after all of these hearings, a public shift. They never got it, Mark, and I think that is going to be very troublesome for them in the future.
Yeah, what does this mean for the future? Break it down a little bit more. Is an impeachment inquiry the new normal in Washington, David?
Well, unfortunately, Mark, yes. And that really is sad for the country, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Look, I tweeted out this morning, and I truly believe this because I tweeted it out, Mark, so I better believe it, which is this. The Democrats not only voted in favor in the House Judiciary Committee of 2 articles of impeachment against Donald Trump, they also voted, let's be honest, for the next Democrat president to be impeached by the Republicans if the Republicans ever take control of the House of Representatives. Because why? This has now become a fully partisan process. You know, with Bill Clinton, at least there were some Democrats that voted with Republicans. The bottom line is that this has been somewhat of a sham as it relates to partisanship. And so it was interesting because Nikki Haley once told me about a month ago or so in an interview, she said, look, Democrats would have some credibility here if they weren't trying to impeach the guy since day one, actually even before day one. And so, yeah, I think this is bad for America. I truly believe, Mark, that the next Democrat president will be nickeled and dimed to death as it relates to investigations and possible impeachment by a Republican-led Congress. This is where we are in America today. It is not good.
Okay, David. CBN News chief political analyst David Brody, thanks for your insights, sir.
Thanks, Mark.
And you can catch David and the latest from our nation's capital this evening on Faith Nation. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. New York City authorities have arrested a 13-year-old boy in connection with the killing of an 18-year-old college student. Officials believe the boy stabbed Barnard College student Tessa Majors just before 7 p.m. in a Manhattan park near her campus. They say she was accosted by a group of people as she walked in the park and then stabbed. Majors was able to stagger to a nearby street where a security guard called for help. She died later at the hospital. The Texas judge who presided over the case of a 7-year-old boy caught in a gender transition custody battle has been removed from the case. In October, Judge Kim Cooks set aside a jury's decision giving Ann Jorgula's sole custody over her 7-year-old son, James Younger. She intended to transition James into a girl, even though his father was against it, and James himself was conflicted. After the ruling, the mother sued to have the judge removed from the case. A conservative administration judge will assign a new judge. Currently, James is attending school as a boy. You can find the full story at cbnnews.com. The company that has been in the business of selling dictionaries for the last 200 years says the word they is the 2019 word of the year. Merriam-Webster says the gender-neutral and non-binary pronoun they has become prominent in the English language. It was looked up 313% more than last year and is becoming increasingly common in both public and personal communication. Merriam-Webster also reported that top runners-up for word of the year were quid pro quo and impeach. President Donald Trump says the U.S. and China have reached phase 1 of a trade agreement deal. The U.S. plans on dropping imposed tariffs on $160 billion worth of Chinese imports and reduce existing tariffs on Chinese goods. The president says in return, China has agreed to massive purchases of American farm and manufactured goods. The news comes after a 17-month dispute between the two countries. The president tweeted they will begin negotiations on phase 2 of the deal immediately. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has led his Conservative Party to a landslide victory in parliamentary elections, one that now paves the way for Brexit, Britain's exit from the European Union. Dale Hurd has the story.
It was the worst defeat for Labour since 1935 and the biggest win for the Tories since the 1980s. President Trump congratulated Prime Minister Johnson on Twitter, saying that Britain and the United States will now be free to strike a massive new trade deal after Brexit.
This election means that getting Brexit done is now the irrefutable, irresistible, unarguable decision of the British people.
These are the results many expected, and they put an exclamation point on the vote 3 years ago to leave the European Union. The vote saw massive defections of Britain's working class away from the Labour Party, precincts that had never voted Conservative before. The question now is whether Johnson can get Brexit done by his promised deadline of January 31st.
It's going to take much longer to get Brexit done than I think many of his voters actually believe, and maybe he's promised them. So the question now is, do they get disillusioned with the length and the difficulty and the complexity of the Brexit process that's about to begin?
It would make Britain the first nation to leave the European Union. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Staying overseas, Israeli police allowed Jewish groups to pray on the Temple Mount. That's according to the Jerusalem Post. While police say their policy has not changed in the past, they have removed or detained any non-Muslims seen praying on the Mount. This week, a group of 10 Jewish men touring the site stopped for 5 to 10 minutes of prayer in full view of police. The men said they deliberately prayed in a quiet manner so as not to antagonize anyone. The Islamic group that controls the Temple Mount says allowing open prayer would change the status quo agreement with Israel's government. That agreement does not allow Muslims to pray at the site where the first and second Jewish temples stood in biblical times. An official said he was unaware of any change, but warned a change could lead to a strong reaction from Arabs and Muslims. Some Jews and Christians believe a third temple will be built on the Temple Mount before the coming of the Messiah. Israel's Holocaust Memorial Yad Vashem received a gift of artifacts associated with Adolf Hitler recently from a very unlikely source. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has that story.
Businessman Abdallah Shatila is a Lebanese-born Christian from Switzerland. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin recently honored Shatila for purchasing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of items connected to Hitler and giving them to Israel.
What you have done, it's so simple. You have said to the whole world, never again.
Rivlin said the act would convey the legacy of the Holocaust to the next generation.
It is something that shows the whole world how to fight fascism, how to fight the gloriness of people who are holding hatred and incitement against other people.
The gift comes as Shatila's own country is dominated by Hezbollah, which calls for Israel's destruction.
We think that you have done something towards the whole humanity, and we appreciate that very much.
Shatila bought the items at an auction to keep them out of the hands of neo-Nazis who would have idolized them. Instead, he planned to destroy them.
And during the 24 hours that it took before the sale happened, I said to myself, I cannot destroy something that doesn't belong to me. Even though at the beginning I did it for humanity, I believe that the Jewish people are the only ones that have the right to decide what to do with the items.
Shatila says he's been threatened for his action.
I got few messages saying that I was a traitor, saying that I helped the enemy, and also some messages of people warning me not to go back to Lebanon.
We heard about the auction, and we understood that someone has to stand up to make sure that this kind of collection would not come to the wrong hands, as it was said correctly, because it might have been personality worship among the circles of neo-Nazism and followers of Nazism today, and all kinds of anti-Semites.
Shatila originally approached the Jewish organization Karen Hayasod United Israel Appeal, who then donated the items, including Hitler's top hat and a silver-plated edition of Hitler's Mein Kampf, to Yad Vashem.
And when I receive messages that saying that there are kids and grandkids of Holocaust survivors, I feel shiver in my hands, and I understand how important this is for the Jewish people. Clearly, I would like that this message goes beyond just the Jewish word. Justice is important, and doing the right thing is very important.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Powerful story. You can see more news from the Middle East from Chris and his team. It's tonight on the CBN News Channel at 9:30 Eastern. Coming up, her school did not let her start a club because it was too Christian. Hear what this could mean for religious freedom in our nation. Stay with us.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torresadillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
A New York high school is banning a 14-year-old student from forming a club at school because it's, quote, too religious. Daniela Barca set out to create a club that would bring Christians at her school together, but she has received pushback from her school principal and school district officials for trying to start the club. Jeremy Dice with the Liberty Institute represents Daniela and says the school is engaging in purposeful and intentional religious discrimination. He joins us now with more. Jeremy, thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Break it down for us. How did all this start?
Well, you got to go all the way back to this past summer in July when Daniela, just 14 years old, decided that as an incoming freshman, she wanted to start a religious club right there on the campus. The clubs are many at that school, and including the Gay Straight Alliance and the Random Acts of Kindness Club and things like that. But she felt like she was the only Christian within her school. And so in order to rectify that and to bring other students together to show the true diversity that's within their student body, she applied to have this club, and first the school district lost their application, and they had to go find it, and they examined it once more. And then they kind of dragged their feet for a few weeks, and ultimately they decided that the school district could not support a club that was in fact religious. And so she appealed that actually to the superintendent there, or one of the assistant superintendents, and even provided what's called the Equal Access Act to them so that they could review that. And in spite of all of that, including an email from her father with the same law presenting to them, they still said, no, look, because this is a club that is explicitly religious in nature, explicitly Christian in nature, the school district cannot support that. Well, that's an open violation of federal law, and we're glad to resolve this matter this week with this school district.
Tell us how Daniela is responding to all of this emotionally, just overall. How's she taking this?
You know, when any student has to wait over 130 days in order to have the club that she applied for back in July, I think everyone is going to be upset. And I think the most compelling thing that has struck me in this case is Daniela's own application, where she said to the assistant superintendent and the school district, look, I'm a Christian. Openly, she's a Christian, but she said, sometimes I feel like I'm the only one. And yet looking at that young lady, knowing that she feels that isolated within that school district, they further entrenched themselves in that isolation and trying to keep her alone on that, saying that, okay, if you're a Christian, be one outside of school, but you can't do it here on campus. And I want students everywhere who are watching this show today and later on to go to firstliberty.org. At First Liberty Institute, we see these cases happening way too much. We've got a toolkit available to you that you can review and be ready when that time comes for you, if it ever comes to you. The fact of the matter is this: the law is abundantly clear and has been clear since 1984. If a school district provides clubs for secular students, they cannot discriminate based upon the religious speech of students wanting to form their own club. That's what this school district did, and we've held them accountable this week.
What you said there brings up my next question. Take us through the legal steps of this case so that others at home who might be facing similar situations like you talked about can know what to possibly expect. What is that toolkit that you're talking about?
Well, they can, again, go to firstliberty.org to download that Student Religious Liberties Toolkit that we have available to them. But they should know that the Equal Access Act was passed back in 1984, and that law is very simple and it's extremely uncontroversial. In fact, it's been good law since the Supreme Court reviewed that soon after it was passed by Congress. And what Congress had in mind was that they saw too many school districts trying to kind of give short shrift to religious students who wanted to form their own clubs. And they were allowing a variety of secular clubs to meet, of course. But the Congress decided that, look, if you're going to open the forum, if you're going to allow students to have a student club of any kind on campus, they cannot be shortened with supplies and with recognition and other things like that just because they happen to mention religious speech within those clubs. That's been a clear black letter federal law for, 3 decades or so. and it should be unambiguous. But oftentimes, as we see many times now, that is occurring, that school districts like this one will take the position that because you're religious, overtly religious, you can't be here on campus to do that. We're happy to represent you on those situations, point that out. And like this week has happened, we sent the letter, and within a mere hours, we had the school district realize that they were in violation of federal law and have changed course. In the beginning of next year, the school, as the January comes into effect, I think Danielle is going to be having her club meeting in the 1st of January.
Wow, that's wonderful news, and just such an encouragement to those to get involved, to take a stand for your rights. It's so important these days. Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy Dice with Liberty Institute. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Still ahead, it was a tragic shooting that took the lives of 12 people, but hear how Congress is helping their family members this holiday season.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30. Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Welcome back. A few months ago, the community of Virginia Beach came together to raise money for families of the victims of the mass shooting that killed 11 city employees and a local contractor and wounded 4 others. CBN contributed to this fund thanks to generous contributions from viewers like you. And Congress just passed legislation to make sure those donations are tax deductible. Here's Abigail Robertson with that story.
As many different families prepare to spend their first Christmas missing loved ones lost in Virginia Beach's tragic shooting last May, Congress is giving them a gift by passing a bill to help provide financial relief to the victims' families.
The incredible thing that happened was the outpouring not only from Virginia Beach, but from across the Commonwealth.
About $4.5 million was raised in the aftermath of the shooting to help fund funeral costs and other financial needs. But Senator Mark Warner tells CBN News there was a small problem.
The folks who originally set up this very worthy foundation, by the nature of naming the actual beneficiaries, which would be the families of the folks who were killed, that it violated certain IRS rules.
The recently passed Virginia Beach Strong Act helps ease the tax burden on both donors and recipients.
The close to $4.5 million will now get the full tax deductibility status that it deserves.
Warner says in the future, he hopes there will be more bipartisan legislation to address gun violence.
I do think no matter where people fall on the political spectrum, we ought to find at least some common areas to come together. So if we can even just prevent one of these tragedies in the future, I think we'll have taken a small step forward.
With the bill passed in both the House and Senate, Warner says he's hopeful President Trump will sign it into law by Christmas. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Coming up, God is on the move in Cambodia. Hear why evangelist Franklin Graham believes the country is making progress toward religious freedom.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religion he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Thanks for staying with us. 1,700 people came forward to put their faith in Jesus Christ in Cambodia this month. Evangelist Franklin Graham preached a two-night festival in the capital, Phnom Penh. He's hoping it sparks an evangelistic fervor in the country that once persecuted Christians and other people of faith.
Right now, we're just concluding here in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. People have given their hearts to Jesus Christ. The church here has suffered so much as a result of the Khmer Rouge. Remember the killing fields? Almost a third of the population here was murdered by the Khmer Rouge. And today the church has risen up out of the ashes, and we see what's happened here. God is working in this country.
Graham's translator was one of just 200 Christians who survived the atrocities committed by the communist Khmer Rouge in the 1970s. That's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day and a great weekend.